Would you like to accelerate your career and reach your full potential in just minutes a day? Welcome to the LEADx Show with New York Times best-selling author and Inc. 500 entrepreneur, Kevin Kruse.
Hey guys, Kevin Kruse here. Welcome to the LEADx Leadership Show, where we help you to stand out and to get ahead at work. Now, as you know, we like to switch things up here, keep it interesting, and to continue that tradition, today on the podcast, instead of me interviewing an expert guest, we're going to have the guest deep dive into their topic. You see, you'll be hearing audio from a LEADx webinar. Now, of course, there are dozens of great webinars on leadership, management, communication, productivity, and more, all archived in the LEADx app. Just visit leadx.org for more information about our webinar archive. So, enough on the setup, enough background information. Here is Vanya Mathis to introduce our guest and to hand it over to them. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to this LEADx webinar. I'm Vanya, your co-host at LEADx, where we offer free world-class training to anyone, anytime, from anywhere. You can watch a free course every day at leadx.org, so make sure to check it out. I'm so excited to bring you our special guest, Nick Gianoulis, the godfather of fun and founder of The Fun Department. Nick has been featured on CNN, BBC News, TEDx, and has recently joined forces with Delivering Happiness. On today's webinar, Nick is going to show you why fun matters for employees, customers, and the bottom line, how fun can be used to bridge the generational gap between boomers and millennials, a proven process to successfully implement fun in the workplace with measurable and sustainable results. And he's going to be taking questions as well for at the end in the Q&A session. Okay, let's get started. Please welcome Nick.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. Good to be with everybody today. Greetings from outside of Philadelphia, Wilmington, Delaware. So it's starting to be springtime here, and I hope everybody's enjoying a nice spring. So here to talk about my favorite subject in the world, which is fun as a competitive advantage, and share what we've learned over more than a decade of delivering more fun in the workplace than anybody in the world. So anxious to get started. So you can see our mission statement there: innovative solutions for a happier, healthier, more connected workplace. Oddly enough, fun is not in the title. We just changed that recently because what we have learned is that fun is the driver for a lot of other very great outcomes. But it's not just about fun. It's a little more than that. So you'll learn that today. So let's get ready to roll. So a couple of objectives today. If there's three things that I hope you get as takeaways today, they are demystify and redefine fun in the workplace. So a lot of people have perceptions about what fun in the workplace is. Some of you may have been traumatized by creepy team building stuff. It's not that. It's really not. So I think you'll be surprised and pleased that there's alternatives to that. And establish fun as a process, not an event. And that was one of my aha moments years ago when I was doing this in the workplace. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Wouldn't it be better if you took those euphoric but fleeting feelings that you get from an event once or twice a year and break those up consistently throughout the course of the year? Wouldn't that yield a better result? And in fact, it did. And that's how we really got started with this model. And then finally, teach you the how-to, easy, effective, affordable programming. Again, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. So let's get into it. So the agenda, some of these terms you will not recognize. That's because we made them up. The first is easy. We're going to talk a little bit about the evolution of fun in the workplace, the why, and the ROI. So, why is fun your competitive advantage? Thankfully, there's a lot of people out there today, a lot of brilliant minds, Sean Aker, Simon Sinek, Tony Hsieh, others who have done a lot of the research and have the experience about the why fun. and we're going to talk about that. It's usually frames up a conversation about the how-to, but know that our expertise and what we're really going to talk about today is the how to successfully implement fun in the workplace. So after we do the evolution, the why and ROI, the laws of fun, and these are the things that we learned over the course of more than a decade of delivering fun in the workplace in every conceivable vertical market that you can imagine, any size company, it doesn't matter. These laws, or universal truths, I want to call them, are standard within any application. And then the shared experience, and this is where the model really gets different. We talk about what's fun for you, your culture, your environment, not inflicted fun on you as some people may have experienced in the past. And then how to develop your creative inventory. This is literally how to put it together and create brief but organic and fun activities in the workplace that really will get you moving and on your way to establishing a culture of fun and happiness at work. And then finally, design, activate, and sustain. So, it's all words and talk unless you actually make the commitment to do it and put it on the calendar and make it happen. So that's the agenda. Let's get started. So the first piece here is the evolution and the why and the ROI of fun at work. I'm going to spend a little bit of time just credentialing, if you will. So what makes us the experts, and why is this information meaningful? And what I want you to take away in this piece of it is that this is all based on practice and experience, right? So it's not theoretical. This is based on practice and experience. And it all started many, many years ago at a company, United Electric Supply. I worked there for many years. And they had a work hard, play hard ethic back before culture was even a term that was used in business. But a work hard, play hard ethic, and I just naturally gravitated towards the play hard. I already knew how to work hard. So, but my hunch or suspicion was that was this company's competitive advantage. That play and fun led to all these wonderful results this company had: high productivity, high retention, high profitability. On paper, they shouldn't have even been in business because there was a lot bigger competitors that could take them out from a pricing standpoint, but wonderful customer service, great place, still is today. But we formed the Circuit Club, and many of you may be on committees at work trying to plan fun activities in the workplace, or engagement committees, culture committees. So we had the Circuit Club. We met every 2 weeks, 10 people, and we learned a lot through that process. But I started to see that it wasn't just appropriate to have fun after work while we did those events, an annual holiday party and summer picnic, as many of you may still do. What I noticed over the period of years is they became less and less popular as people's demands for their personal time just became more and more evident. There was less attendance at those events. So I thought, geez, let's plan things brief but consistently throughout the course of the year. And we did, and that model really seemed to work. So my fascination continued. I started to research fun in the workplace, and this guy came up. So if anybody can guess who that is, and you can type it in, I'll send you a $2 bill or a book or something. I don't know. But that is Dr. Paul McGee, and he's one of the foremost authorities on fun and humor, laughter, and very well published, and just a really awesome guy. And he happened to live in my hometown. And when I was researching it, I thought, what the heck, this guy's from my neighborhood. So we met, and he really thought that this theory I had about starting a company called the Fun Department to change the model of traditional team building, was a good one. But he said, be prepared for a long haul. There's a lot of non-believers out there. And then before I got started, I thought, wow, geez, maybe I should, get some professional help, somebody who really knows how to deliver fun. So I got this guy. So Dave Raymond is the guy who created the best mascot of all time. He lived as a Philly fanatic for many, many years. and it was a friend of mine, and I thought, geez, if anybody knows how to have fun, it's Dave. So got together with Dave, and we created this company, the Fun Department, back in 2005, did this team building and events for many, many years until today, and we still do lots of team building and events. And then wrote a book, documented our process. We wanted to teach people this model and process that you're going to learn today. So we started a training and consulting part of the business. And then we got into the product business in 2017, actually shipping subscription-based services of boxes of fun. And then finally, I'm very proud to be partners with Delivering Happiness. In 2018, we started a partnership with DH. And if anybody knows that company, born out of Tony Hsieh's experience with Zappos, starting a company based on culture, happiness, and fun, and taking a very traditional, boring business, online shoes, and making it mega successful. So one of many examples of companies today that are disruptors in the marketplace that are starting with culture, starting with happiness and fun, and building a company from there. So much like the experience at United Electric, where nothing fancy or glamorous about electrical supplies, but they had this amazing culture that was based on fun and happiness at work. So that's enough credentialing. Sorry if it seems like a commercial. Just wanted to give you a little history and background, and why why it's important to recognize that this, again, is based on practice and experience. So more data, and we're going to, again, talk about the how-to, but I first want to cover the why, because most conversations about fun and happiness at work, somebody's got to be convinced. It's a leader, CEO, CFO, somebody's got to say, geez, why do we want to do this? What makes it important? So this is just one statistic, and it's one of my favorites because it says 81% of employees. Note that this is not from leaders, it's not from management. 81% of employees in companies denoted as great in Fortune's 100 best companies to work for say they work in a fun workplace environment. So that's significant because from an employee standpoint, fun has the highest correlation of any other thing that makes up culture and what people think denotes a great company. So it's important to know that from your employee's perspective, that fun ranks very high. It's 60 to 70% correlation to a great company. So important to know. So if you're going to start with, culture, why not start with, with fun? And the other part that I really like about this statistic is that it's talking about the best companies to work for. So I always make the qualification right up front that fun will not make a good or a bad company good or great. It's almost insulting if you're not already a good company. It can be your competitive advantage for sure, but it won't make a bad company good. So I love our business because we get to really work with the best in class companies. If you think about the top companies in your geographic area, large, small, any vertical market, those best in class companies usually embrace this culture of fun and happiness. And more companies are doing this all the time. So it's awesome that we do get to work with some, really top-notch companies. So a little, some more data that, again, it's overwhelming. I see an article come out just about every week now that speaks to the value of fun and happiness at work. So this is not a trend. We call it the movement. Some people refer to it as the revolution, workplace revolution, but it is happening for sure. So any one of these statistics can be a strong argument for trying fun and happiness at work, right? So 31% more productivity, higher retention. I just recently met with a company who had a 21% turnover ratio, which is really high, right? So if you're in the single digits, it's manageable. But if you're in the double digits plus, that's a really expensive way to operate a business, and something is inherently wrong. Again, companies that employ these principles have 44% higher retention rates than their competitors, higher increase in sales, usually due to exceptional customer service. So if you're a Zappos customer, you understand that the value of customer service and a wow experience. I actually look forward to something going wrong or having some kind of mistake because the outcome, the correction is so much fun. So in any case, these companies outperform in sales, less burnout. So we work a lot in hospitals or high stress environments, which is really, really typical. So some fun and humor and happiness goes a long way to reduce stress. 300% more innovation. So oftentimes when you're getting together as a group, starting with some fun can really just excite the senses for creativity and innovation. And a lot of very creative companies have a culture of fun and happiness. And while we track a lot of our own data, I want you to be aware that these are statistics that are from, the giants in the industries, the Gallups, the PricewaterhouseCoopers, Harvard Business Review, Forbes. And if you can say Greenberg and Arkawacha 10 times fast, I'll send you a book. So just some cool statistics. And as if this isn't enough, oh my God, the millennials are coming, So, you've heard this probably too much. It's in, all the buzz in the workplace. But know that today already we've crossed the 50% mark, where over 50% of the workplace consists of a millennial population, and by 2025, over 75% of the workforce. So, what's unique about the millennial population is that they are making conscious decisions to choose workplace culture and environment over traditional pay and benefits. And that really is significant, right? That they are choosing to companies, and they don't even care what the services or the products are. It's more about an environment that has sense of purpose, a sense of community, flexibility, fun, collaboration, recognition, all things that this population is known for. And oh, by the way, so are we, right? I mean, as an old dude, I like all those things too, right? They're just the first generation that's really demanded it and is willing to sacrifice pay to get in a healthy environment. So that's significant, and it is changing. It's driving a lot of this behavior. And then the other thing to note that's important about millennials is that even the ones that are working are looking for another opportunity. So it's all the more important to recognize them, give them sense of purpose, kind of feed their wants and needs to keep them on board. But it's a relatively transient workforce. So just some trends too, and again, I don't want to belabor the why part if you're not already convinced that that fun and happiness by the statistics and the ROI is good for your business. Now is probably a good time to just check out. But if you're intrigued and you think, oh yeah, I want to learn how to, bear with me because that's what we're going to get into now. So some workplace trends that are worth noting over, the course of the last couple of decades. Work ethic has shifted to workplace culture. Employee engagement is really about the employee experience today. It's more than engagement scores, Gallup or whoever else is measuring. It's more about the total experience. And you're seeing a lot of this, right? From going from a hierarchical leadership and structure to flat organizations and leaders who are serving and with emotional intelligence, considering the whole employee and wellness to well-being. Again, not just focusing on health and wellness, but on well-being, psychological, mental, spiritual. So the whole individual comes to work and shows up every day, and we need to be, as leaders, conscious of that things that happen outside of work definitely impact work. And then silos and technology. Silos is certainly not an unfamiliar term. A lot of companies are siloed by departments or divisions, but technology has also siloed us. And there's a lot of data out now that's showing the signs of being detached, right? So you've seen it 100 times where there's, people, walking down the street and everybody's on a phone, or they're sitting next to one another in workplaces, and they're, texting instead of communicating. So a big factor that is contributing to the need for connection and collaboration. I actually think the next major trend in workplace is going to be this connected workplace. How do we get people physically back, together, talking to one another, not just through technology? So a couple of, trends to keep in mind as we start to get into this. So it's hard to talk about the new model of team building, if you will, and I'm going to come up with another term for that one of these days, but just to frame it and understand, what the new model is, you have to understand the old model. So let's take a look at the old model first.
Do you trust your coworkers? Yes, you do. So just relax and let go. Okay, what did we learn there? Anybody? Is there such a thing as personal space? No, there isn't, because we are all molecules in the same organism.
American Airlines.
Yeah, I need an earlier flight out of Chicago. Rebecca, your move.
Night takes point.
There you go. That's a power move, because she thought diagonally.
Got any seats on the 2 o'clock? Feel like some of you don't respect me.
But because
of the hat. Just get me on the next flight out. Hey, me too. 2 seats.
Hi.
We know how you fly.
I just made it.
We're American Airlines.
So I thank American Airlines for that video every day. It really does help people kind of frame up what that traditional model, which I feel is a little bit creepy and weird, but if you had to do a trust falls or rope courses or any of that stuff, I can assure you that's not what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to look at a new model. So that traditional model, if you've been traumatized by that at some point in your life, you'll be pleased to know that we've really redefined it from this long, characterized by long, boring, expensive, forced one-time event, which doesn't work, to brief, engaging. If you're going to do something brief, 15, 30 minutes, make it engaging. No need for heavy messaging or debriefing. Very cost effective. Some of the things we're going to talk about today, well under $100 per, activity or event, these small things that you can do in the workplace. And then instead of forced family fun, and again, this is a major part of our model that is different, that I think you'll find refreshing, is that it's the shared experience. Let's determine what's fun for you as an individual, and then collectively as a group, as a department, as a company, we can extract all that data and then build things around that for a shared experience. So, and then instead of a one-time event, an annual holiday party or summer picnic or one of those big events, that really, this should be organic and sustainable. Most of the companies that do this really well, fun is one of their core values. It's actually built into the DNA of their company. So that takes time. If you're going to start it, don't expect it to happen in 30 days. It takes some time, but that's nirvana and kind of where you want to be. And these really self-actualized, high-functioning companies have that as part of their model. So, I'm sorry. So laws of fun, let's talk about, sorry, here we go. Kind of had to, got clicker happy there. So let's talk about these laws of fun. So again, these are things that we learned over the course of over, a decade, delivering fun every day of the week, 6-7 times a day in this brief but consistent way. So leadership buy-in, number one. I mean, we won't even engage with a company where leaders are not bought in. It's extremely important. It sets you up for success. We call it permission to play. We're 100% successful where leaders are bought in, and we're about 50 to 60% successful where it's being driven from the bottom up. We'll talk more about that. The 3 C's: consistency, on company time, and compliant with your culture. And then finally, fun for all the senses. Not as important as the 3 C's in leadership buy-in, but it's still important to recognize. So in a little more detail, what happens if leaders are not bought in? Kind of looks like that, I'm too busy entertaining my minions, I'm on my phone, blah, blah. That really doesn't work. So we really encourage leaders to participate, not just allow fun to happen, but to be a part of it. And it really is very humanizing. What's it look like when leaders are bought in? That's a little dramatic, but it looks kind of like that. So fun doesn't always look like that, but that's a good picture. And the guy in the white shirt happens to be a leader who started his company the same time we did. And he based it on culture, fun, and happiness. Wildly successful company. Took traditional workspace, made it collaborative, cool. He was one of the very pioneers in that industry. If you're familiar with WeWork, and many of you might be in a WeWork or similar type atmosphere today, but he was one of the pioneers and built a company around fun and happiness. Very successful. So then the 3 C's. Our prescription, if you will, if we had to write a prescription for a company as a place to get started, is monthly, regularly occurring once a month for 15 to 30 minutes is what we would recommend for fun in the workplace. And then if you do a really good job with pregame and postgame, and we'll talk more about that, kind of announcing something is going to happen or building up a little smack talk about it, and then certainly postgame afterwards with pictures and videos and trophies or whatever, then you're going to maximize the experience of that 15 to 30 minutes. And our data says that after doing that for like 9 months to 12 months, employees start to shift their perspective of fun happening, not just once a quarter or once a month, but they see fun. They start to report that fun is happening every week or every day, when in fact, it's only happening once a month for 15 to 30 minutes in a formal, setting, if you will, right? Where fun is some activity, where they're engaged in a fun activity. So pre and post game, really important. And then on company time. We used to say only on company time, but we break our own rules, right? We have fun with each other after work too, because we like hanging out and we're friends. However, where possible, on company time. You have to be respectful of people's, life and, outside of work. And again, 30 minutes or less. And then compliant. This culture and policy fit is really important. We don't want anybody getting fired over fun at work. So whatever is appropriate for your culture and your environment is worth paying attention to. Okay, so culture and policy fit, really important. And this is probably my favorite, which is an all-inclusive and non-threatening. So when we build fun out for any customer, or whether it's going to be a training, or whether we're physically delivering fun, or we're creating a box of fun, we follow these same laws of fun. And one of the big ones is it's got to be all-inclusive and non-threatening. And what does that mean? It means that everyone can participate at the level they're comfortable with. So we're not going to ever make fun of anybody. We're not going to put anybody on the spot. We allow people to self-select the role that they want to play. And if that role is to be an observer, that's totally fine. That's super cool. So it's really important, and that's how we get 100% participation, and you certainly can too. So really important, these laws of fun, or universal truths, I should call them, are hold true in every case. And then finally, fun for all the senses. So the environment should look good, sound good, smell good, taste good, feel good. And look is, it should be, if you're going to take a break for some fun, and if you're in a cube farm or in a, kind of a not so pleasant environment, go up to the atrium or take a walk outside or do something that is, a little outside of your space, and the look of a place can make a big difference and set you up again for success. Sound, really important, and that's really music. So every time we do any kind of delivery, we always have music, have a good playlist. I have a good friend who does an annual holiday party every year, for friends, and he could never get a great turnout. And I would have a party and it'd be a rockin' turnout. I'd put much less effort into my parties, but I always had a good playlist. So now I bring the playlist to his parties, and they're way more fun. So it's important. So think about that. Smell, that's why we put cookies up there. You can bribe people to come to an activity or an event, with something simple like, food is always a winner, right? And taste, again, it doesn't have to be fancy food or anything, but if you are going to serve food, and it's not necessary to serve food for any activity that you're going to do, but obviously it should taste good. And feel good is not feeling your coworkers. Trust me, we're very HR compliant and sensitive. Feel good just means pay attention. If you're going to do something outdoors, you wouldn't want to do it if you live in our part of the country, in the Philadelphia area. You wouldn't want to do it in July or August where it's sweltering hot. Maybe do that activity, plan that one for the spring or the fall. So fun for all the senses is important stuff to pay attention to. So learned about the evolution, the why, and the ROI. We talked about the laws of fun, and we're flying through this, but we're going to get through the shared experience, which again is kind of the cornerstone of this new model. And so I put this diagram up here because I had sent one of our really bright coworkers on an experiment years ago, and I said, go find me universal fun. And he came back and said, sorry, dude, there's no such thing as universal fun. Fun is an individual experience, but I figured out a way to tie it all together. And he showed me this, right? These 3 rings with an X. And I'm like, really, dude, is that all you've got for me? And he said, that's the shared experience. And if anybody knows what that diagram is, it's a Venn diagram. And it really does, illustrate the way this works. So we can, it doesn't matter whether it's 2 people or 2,000, this experiment, if you will, works all the time. Imagine that those 3 circles are 3 individuals, people that, you work with. We guarantee in every case we can find X, the thing that is the common shared experience. Again, it works every time. Imagine there's 300 circles. Most people say, oh my God, it gets really complicated. There's more opportunities for fun, right? So this, again, experiment works every time. In a workshop, we'll spend an hour and a half just on this part alone. But, we can collect all the data, come back with, somebody's shared experience as a company, as a department, whatever it might be. So really important. And it's, again, replicable every time. We use this example, an extreme one, but just to illustrate the point. We were in a large university setting one time doing this keynote and exercise, and we did the shared experience. And a couple of college students, we brought them up, and they're, frat brothers, and they picked cliff diving as their shared experience. I thought, wow, that's going to be a tough one. Not everybody's going to be in for that. But this is what naturally happens all the time. I asked how many people are into cliff diving. About 30% of their hands went up, including mine. But within seconds, people said, I'll bring the music, I'll do the food, the photographs, right? So this event never happened, but I just want to give you the example of how it can work. No matter what the subject is, people will find a way to participate if you invite them to, and you ask them what's fun for them, right? So really, really important, and again, kind of just illustrates the value of the shared experience. So what are some of the benefits? Number one, it sets you up for success. So much different than Johnny Team Building Company coming in and saying, hey, pick the 5 things that I say are going to be fun for you. Here they are, trust falls, rope challenges, blah, blah, blah. You automatically eliminate 50% at least of the population by doing that, right? So if you do the shared experience and you just ask people what's fun for them, and then collectively we can show them that data of, what's fun for your whole group, it sets you up for success. And that's how we get 100% participation. It humanizes leadership, right? And I mentioned that before, super important. We want leaders to be involved wherever they're participating. Then, people it flattens you an organizational chart, and leaders are just like everybody else, right? They're human beings and they all have wants and needs, and they like to have fun. It directs your focus. So if we know that outdoor activities happen to be one of the many shared experiences that we glean out of this data for a company, then let's do some outdoor activities. Again, make them brief. They get 15 to 30 minutes, but you can focus on certain areas that, again, will set you up for success. I mentioned 100% participation by allowing people to participate at the level that they're comfortable with. And this is really important. The shared experiences are the most memorable. So I love reading. If you ask me to make my list, and I do it often, what are the things that are fun for me? Reading always hits the list, but it's not my most memorable. If you think about the things that you really remember, it's the things that you're doing with your family, your friends, your loved ones, your coworkers. There are things that you do together. So really powerful that the shared experiences are the most memorable. And then I love this one. No more forced family fun. No more somebody telling you what is going to be fun for you, because that just doesn't work. And something that a lot of people can relate to is the boss telling them what's fun for them. So if you've ever had that experience, I love golf. I'm the boss. Therefore, we're all going to go play golf. I happen to like golf myself, but I know that will eliminate at least 50% of my employee population. So we can find ways to play golf in this shared experience to modify that game so that everybody could participate at a level they're comfortable with, but it's not going to be on a golf course. And we can talk more about that. So we're flying through, we're getting into the kind of the heart of it. And I'm hoping you're seeing the flow of how this works. So, it's important to know the why and the ROI. And then these laws of fun, which are the universal truths of fun, the leadership buy-in, the 3 C's, and fun for all the senses. And then the shared experience, starting with what's fun for you, and then building that out into what's fun for your group, your department, and recognizing that fun looks different from department to department. And we find this often the case, that it's probably going to look a little bit different in engineering than it would in sales and marketing. And that is okay. That's totally fine. You'll also find that if you're in a multi-location business, that your one branch or one division is going to have another idea of fun than the other one would, or that common experience of, headquarters gets all the fun. They have all the good times, and we don't even like the things that they do for fun, right? So allow it to be specific to each culture, each branch, division, or department. And so we're going to talk about developing this creative inventory. And again, this is usually in a couple-hour format, but we're going to go through it rather quickly here. There's 4 pillars that make up every activity, every program that we develop or you would develop based on this model. So the first one is forums, when and where the fun happens. So if you go through this exercise and you say, geez, what are the opportunities for fun within my organization? It might be meetings, it might be outdoors, it might be on the car ride to work. There's all kinds of forums, when and where. So we first identify those. Then we look at the themes, and these can be value-based. They can be core values. So it could be, maybe it's innovation or collaboration, or it could just be occasions. Most people are familiar with holiday themed type of fun activities at work, whether it's, Halloween or Cinco de Mayo, whatever it might be. But they're very common. Write down, if you would, holidayinsights.com. And that's one of many websites that'll show you a theme or holiday for any day of the year. So it's a good place to start if you ever get stuck in this process. You want to come up with a cool theme for something. Look on there. You National National Pet Day, National Smile Day. There's a host of those, themes that you can look at. And then activities. So we base those on what is fun for you. So once we do that shared experience activity, so what's fun for you, and we can start to build out these programs. And then the pre-game and post-game, as I mentioned earlier. So again, you take this shared experiences, apply the laws of fun, and then build out this fun programming. So what's it look like when it comes all together? And I'm going to show you kind of a build out example. And if you can notice at the top, in those black headers, forums, themes, activities, and follow-up, which we just showed you as the 4 pillars. This is one company's example, okay? And you can see they listed a number of different things in their workshop. They actually built out 12 things, for a year of fun in a workshop, but it was just one that came to them. And so in the highlight parts, they wanted to do something around a community event. They wanted it to be around food. I don't know where, I forget where the food dude came from, but just work with us here. That's what they came up with. And Pie the Prez. So they wanted to have this event, this fundraising event, and they were trying to figure out a way to get participation going and raise more money, and photos and pics were the follow-up. So this event took less than 15 minutes, very high energy. And that photograph, one of many taken that day, still circulates throughout that organization, and they've gotten so much mileage out of that. They also raised, they do this event every year, this community event. They had a 40% increase in the amount of contributions and participation in the event. And that's also a great example of leadership buy-in. That happens to be the boss taking a pie in the face. I don't say or recommend that you necessarily do that, but he did, and wildly successful, and just a good example of something that they all agreed was going to be fun for them, and leadership buy-in again to an extreme. Here's another one. I'll just show you briefly, that was based on a safety training. So this is a company, Cintas, who is a safety supply company, and they do a lot of safety trainings, OSHA trainings, which can be really challenging, extremely boring, I should say. So they wanted to make that a little more fun. They picked their forum, their theme, their activity, and the follow-up, and they came up with their version of pen, paper, shredder, rock, paper, scissors. They called it goggles, gloves, and hard hats. They're the 3 things, 3 protection devices that people had to remember. And so this was an activity that went over really well in the workshop. They started to do it locally. They did it regionally. Now they do it nationally in all their workshops. Just a quick and easy way of communicating a message that would otherwise be boring and probably disciplinary. But if you make it a game and make it fun, people will remember and will embrace it. So again, pretty cool. A couple of examples. So we're getting ready to land the plane. We're coming up here on 45 minutes, and we've gone through the agenda rather quickly. I know it's a lot of information in a short period of time, but I wanted to show you that this is actually a process, and one that you can easily do. And I hope you found it to be, refreshing and a little bit different than what you might have imagined. I love this quote, and I just think it's very appropriate. And I also love Dr. Seuss, but it's good to have fun, but you have to know how. And this is a great blueprint or model to follow to develop fun in the workplace for sustainable business results. So we started talking at the beginning about fun as a competitive advantage. I'm going to wrap it all back up and tell you that there is no question that fun is a component of a great culture and can produce some really amazing business results while also just having a great effect on people. Everybody wants to have it. You just have to know how. So I will open it up for questions, and thank you for participating along.
Great. Thanks, Nick. That was fantastic. I do have a question here from Anna. It's a great idea to implement fun, and it would seem easier to introduce it in a startup, but how can we convince management to introduce it in a company that's been around for decades or very conservative?
Yeah, great question. It comes up all the time. And so it really is by looking at the ROI. Leaders want to be convinced that there is something in it for them. And so when you look at the data, that's why I presented that first, because oftentimes we're approached by employees who want to have fun at work, but they have some convincing to do. So we spend a great deal of time with leadership, and if they're not bought in, again, it's not worth pursuing. So it's essential. We have a ton of data, white papers, and so forth that we share with people. So happy to do that if they need some convincing. Yeah. Hope that helps.
I've got one here from Michaelina. Thanks for the webinar. How do you convince the manager how important it is?
So again, I think the leadership, does have to see that benefit of what it's going to be, for them. What does, fun, how does it help them? And that data is really important. And anybody who the presentation will make available for people if they certainly they can share that. But there has to be a champion, somebody who is going to champion fun within the workplace. And oftentimes leaders think, oh, I have to create a whole nother department or division or hire somebody to do this. That's not the case. So there are plenty of people. I liken it to Donkey and Shrek, the pick me, like you ask somebody who wants to be involved in the fun activities, there's plenty of people that'll raise their hand. And if somebody's there to champion it and follows this process, it'll be super easy. You don't need 10 people on a committee. It could be 1 or 2 people, even within a big company, to get this rolling.
Great. Next question here is from Arpita, and if anyone has questions, please submit them now. She's asking, nowadays, many companies allow flexibility of working from home. Thus, the team members are virtual, Texas, California. How can we infuse fun in such remote companies?
Yeah, so again, a great question and very common today. So we do virtual fun. We do videos, and while it's less than ideal, because if there are people that are just, solo working, at home, it still ties them into the rest of the organization, and it allows them to participate in a company-wide, fun activity. Most of these are, 5 to 10 minutes. They're maybe trivia based, but we do them for big companies, Capital One, big bank all over the country. We do a series of those every year, and some of them are challenges where we're asking them to engage with other employees to come up with something, and then we tabulate all the results, and there's a prize of some kind at the end. But that's where we will use technology to connect people. But our goal is always to bring people together. So that's one way of doing it. The Box of Fun is another way, where we ship it to multiple locations, and then they have competitions amongst the various branches of who finished first or best picture or whatever it is. So
yeah, that brings me to the next question. Julie's asking, what comes in a box of fun?
What comes in a box of fun? So they are, if you can think of them as kind of our best ever curated activities that we've used in a variety of different circumstances. So, on our website, there's some examples. Football bocce, it's a, or puzzle. There's some of them are creative games, some of them are mild physical challenges, all built with the laws of fun, like we talked about. They're all inclusive, non-threatening. and they're meant to be for 4 to 20 people for 15 to 20 minutes. And so it's, comes with instructions and, everything that you would need. And then you can do it at your leisure. But football bocce is a great example of a game that, people like football and they like bocce. We combine the two so you can play it in the office. Nobody gets hurt, it's all inclusive, all that. So, we modify games and, based on people's shared experiences. If somebody says football, we're obviously not going to get everybody out on a football field. It's not going to happen. But how can you modify football? You can make it a paper football game where, you're shooting through, somebody's fingers, a goalpost or whatever. So we find ways to modify things that people are interested in. Great question.
Interesting. Do you ever do stuff like that for like bigger workshops or conferences? Like, do you do boxes of fun? Like, I'm thinking for ourselves that LEADx is going to be doing an event in November, a training event. And I'm wondering, like, maybe we can partner or something. What kind of things do you do for larger workshops?
Yeah, so we're doing one next week where we're going to Naples, Florida. It's a company where, that's their annual conference. A lot of people will set up stations with boxes so that people can kind of play at their leisure. We'll have people that are there to facilitate or whatever, get them started. Yeah. But we do that a lot. We just did a Millennial Summit. In fact, we got a couple of them coming up here where we'll do these stations and we have these boxes. So they're really cool that, people can engage at their leisure and, again, engaging, fun, quick.
Cool. Very neat.
Yeah.
Last question here. I've got, what are the challenges, barriers you foresee a company facing while implementing this new fund strategy?
Yeah, another great question. So a lot of it is the first time jitters, right? So we'll have do a workshop for a company and they leave all fired up. They're ready to go. Like, this is awesome. They're all bought in. They love it. And then the first activity, which we actually put on the calendar, like, let's get started. Here it is. And we coach them through it remotely, right? So we can coach people over the phone just to make sure that they're set up. But it's getting the first one done. And, like anything else, this is practice and experience. And normally by the third one, which typically is the third month, people are going, no, we got this, man. We got this. We're good. We're good. In fact, we came up with other ideas. We have our creative inventory posted up and we found some other things that we want to do. So they get into it. And doing a workshop, we get people actually building these activities in 5-minute rounds and then 2-minute speed rounds. So you really get pretty proficient at it, once you know the process.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, those are all the questions we have today. Thank you, Nick, so much for taking the time.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Make sure you check out the fun department. You can see the social media links there and check out the boxes of fun. That sounds so cool. I know I am. Awesome. Remember, we offer this webinar replay along with all our past webinar replays in LEADx Academy, and you can sign up at leadx.org for a free, no-risk 3-day trial. So check that out. Hope everyone has a great rest of the week. Thank you.
Go out and have some fun. Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Friends, if you like this episode of the LEADx Leadership Podcast, please take a minute, leave a rating on iTunes or Stitcher. Ratings are invaluable for attracting new listeners. And I like to convert those listeners into leaders because, I'm on a mission to spark 100 million leaders in the next 10 years. And if you want to become the boss everyone fights to work for and nobody wants to leave, check out the LEADx platform with Coach Amanda at leadx.org. And if you have 10 or more managers who could use some binge-worthy training, send me an email at info@leadx.org, leadx.org, and we'll talk about getting you set up with a totally free pilot for those managers. See if they like it. If they don't, that's fine. We go away. Part as friends. But if they love it, you've just found yourself a new resource for them. Remember, leadership is influence. You're always leading. How are you going to lead today?